at The Ohio State University at Wexner Medical Center. He's also the division director. And he's been at Ohio State now for 7-8 years now, right, Dr. Conwell?
7 years.
Yeah. He finished fellowship at Cleveland Clinic, after which he was on faculty there. And then he moved to Brigham and Women's, and he was there for a while until he took the chair position here at Ohio State. It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Conwell. Do you want me to start this video? Start with the video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
All right.
It's the YouTube video, so we may have to skip the ad, Sam, that pops up first.
Do you guys see the video?
No.
No.
Okay. Let me, how do I?
If
Does
you
it
want to
let you?
unshare and then share again.
Yeah, maybe I'll use share.
Yeah, this is it. You can get it from the beginning. We don't have sound, though.
Unshare and check the box that says share audio.
Okay. Do a new share.
Be sure to try to start it from the beginning. Be good. The audio is very important. Yes, we got it.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
All right, I will go back to your presentation. All right.
Okay, so Thank you all for letting me come. So this is, it's a little outdated. These are my parents, my mom and my dad. And they've actually been married. See, I'm 57. They've been married now 60, almost 60, 59 years now, almost 60 years. And this photograph right here was taken in Columbus the day I signed my contract to be the division director at Ohio State. And they live about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours from Columbus. And it was a big day for us to come back to Ohio. And they got all dressed up and came up. And this is actually at the Olive Garden. And it was really a big day. My dad's got the Ohio State colors on because we're big Buckeye fans. And it was a very happy day for us, so me and my wife and my mom and dad. But I got parents like you saw that father there taking care of his son, helping him finish his race. And so I got parents like that, you know, just really wonderful people, just really invested a lot into their kids. And no college education, but really just very supportive. So just blessed to have that. So I thought I would just talk about my journey, how I got here, and Sam asked me to share some stuff. So I thought I would share this with you guys. So let's, next slide. So this is the house that I grew up in. My parents still live here, and it's pretty cold today, so you wouldn't see my mom on the porch, but this is where they sit most mornings drinking coffee, and in the afternoon it's going to be tea or lemonade. This is Ironton, Ohio. It's a 2-bedroom house. There's two rooms, one in the front here and there's one in the back. And it's a typical house in Ohio in small town America. My dad bought that house with the GI Bill. And that's where I go when I go visit my folks. And that's where I grew up. And that's where I'll never forget when I had a science fair project and I got locked out of the house and couldn't get in. I remember sitting on the porch with and I'll show you the science fair project later. I remember sitting on the porch waiting on my mom to get home to let me in the house. I had this big blue ribbon. I won the top biology award that day. And I was sitting there on those steps with the science fair project waiting on, so proud and just being able to come home to show them the award that I got. But that's the house where it all happens, where I grew up. So they're still there. Next slide. High school, Ironton High School in Ironton, Ohio. Simple beginnings. Next slide. So I was born in Louisiana, though. My dad was in the military, he was in the Army. I was raised in Ohio. We went to move back. My parents were in Ohio, but my dad joined the military. I was born in Louisiana. My dad went to Vietnam. My mom came back to Ohio and grew up and raised in the Baptist church. Spent a lot of time in Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, all through school. And like a lot of you, they really studied hard, in terms of books and academics. I was in the National Honor Society, graduated with some honors. Played a lot of sports, baseball and football, and played a lot of racquetball. Our high school won the state championship my junior year. And my senior year, I was a captain of the football team. We got into the playoffs, so we got beat our senior year, but we were the defending state champions. That was probably that was just the biggest thrill of my sport career because football is very, very big in Ohio. And to win a state championship in Ohio, it's really, really hard to do. And at that time, there were only 3 divisions, single A, double A, and triple A. And for a little small town to win the state championship, and the team we beat was Akron St. Vincent St. Mary. And that sounds familiar to you. That's the same high school that later produced LeBron James. And so this little small town beat a very, very big school. So it was really pretty impressive for us to go to Akron. And we actually played them in Akron, Ohio, which was big home town advantage. So it was a pretty big day for us. Next slide. So I went to Ohio University, which is about an hour and a half away from my hometown. So I'll tell you, in high school, I had a lot of accolades, and I applied. I actually, my junior year, I was watching ABC Wide World of Sports, and the telephone rang. This is before cell phones. you guys can imagine that. The telephone rang, and it was a recruiter from Harvard undergraduate. It was called Harvard Radcliffe at the time. And he asked to speak to Darwin Conwell. That was me. And he said, I'm the recruiter for Harvard. And I hear you're a pretty good football player. I hear you're a pretty good student. And how would you like to play football at Harvard and go to Harvard? And I said, Harvard, is that like Harvard, like way up north Harvard? He goes, yeah. And I said, I don't know, sounds pretty good. And so that put me on this journey of getting all these letters of recommendation, and you're meeting these senators and congressmen and writing you letters and all this stuff. And my football coach put together all these footage of films and stuff. And but I didn't get in, and I didn't get in because my SAT score was not high enough. And I had never even heard of the SAT in my little town. We took the ACT, and I took the SAT cold turkey. I drove to Huntington, West Virginia at Marshall University to take the SAT. I didn't even know what the SAT was. Didn't even know what the test was going to be like. I took two lead pencils, walked in, and took the SAT. And I didn't do well on the SAT. I remember getting the call saying, well, you're not going to get in. Your score's not high enough. So Harvard, that was dashed. So I went to Ohio University and majored in pre-med and chemistry, and got a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry. And I did well. I mean, I studied very hard, and was successful there and did well. And ended up going to University of Cincinnati for medical school. But I also applied to Harvard for medical school. And I did not get into Harvard for medical school. So I went to the University of Cincinnati, and I got a scholarship to go there, a partial scholarship. It was a 4-year scholarship that helped because we didn't have the money to, obviously to pay for all that medical education. But did well there. I was the president of Student National Medical Association, did a lot of community work, working in some free clinics, like a lot of us do. You get there and you're trying to help. You see your medical schools in the inner city, and you see all the poverty, and you see a lot of the medical schools are always trying to help. And so we're involved in a lot of things. And I was on the admissions committee, and did well there. And I did my internal medicine residency at Christ Hospital and Community Hospital. A lot of the faculty were also at joint appointments at this community hospital, and I liked it there. So I decided to not stay at the university. I decided to go to a community hospital. And I was a Christian, and I liked the environment at Christ Hospital, and I liked the faculty there, and it was just really a fun place to be. And so I went there for my internship in residency, and I got a really good internal medicine education. And then from there, great things happen. And I think in your life, you have these moments where your career is kind of going along, and then there are these points where things just take off. And for me, this was a game changer. Going to the Cleveland Clinic was just a major change in my medical education. I was surrounded by just very highly intelligent faculty who wanted to teach, who wanted to train you. And I mean, endoscopy was an art form there. It wasn't just pushing the scope. It was, it was an art. There was a technique how to do endoscopy, and they spent a lot of time. I remember we couldn't touch a colonoscope after we had done 100 EGDs, and at the same time, in parallel, there was a sigmoidoscopy clinic at the time, and these were intermediate fiber optic scopes. These were the old days, and we had to do all these sigmoidoscopies all day. We all had a day of sigmoidoscopy clinic, and we couldn't touch a colonoscope until we really understood how to do upper endoscopy and understood all the dials and controls, and it was an art form. And then, of course, all the consultations, and people were coming from all over the world there. And so we really learned a lot, and we were taught a lot. IBD was really big there because the colorectal surgeons were extremely good, and patients were flying in from everywhere for IBD. And so I joined I became a chief fellow. I actually was coming from a community hospital. We had a fellow from the University of Massachusetts, a fellow from University of Minnesota, 2 Cleveland Clinic internal medicine residents, and I was the only community one. But I really worked hard. I became the chief fellow, and I was proud of that because I really, really knuckled down and did my best. They gave me the worst call. They gave me Thanksgiving call, they gave me Christmas call, and they gave me New Year's call. And I said, well, you know, it is what it is, and you just work hard. And I became the chief fellow. And it was a 2-year fellowship, so you had a lot to learn in 2 years. And I wasn't interested in advanced endoscopy. I was really interested in pancreas. And the people I really wanted to pattern myself after, and Joel Richter became the chair of a GI, and he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said pancreas, and he was like, oh no, I don't need another advanced endoscopist. I got enough advanced endoscopists. You know, John Vargo's just joined, and we don't need any more advanced endoscopists. I said, I'm not interested in advanced endoscopy. I said, I really want to do medical pancreatology. And he was like, oh, that's great. We don't have a medical pancreatologist. And I said, I really want to be like Jean DeMagno and Phil Toscas. And he said, that is wonderful. And he knew both of them. He knew Jean DeMagno, he knew Phil Toscas. And Joel Richter he started making phone calls. And I talked to Jean DeMagno on the phone a lot. I tried to get in touch with Phil Toscas. He was busy, but Chris Forsmark was very nice and talked to me on the phone a lot. And one of the things I had to do was to develop a pancreas function test. If I was going to have a medical pancreas practice, we had to bring up this pancreas function test. So I talked to Jean DeMagno, and we got their protocol, and we were not going to do the 2-lumen test. It was too hard. And so we modified the test that they did at Florida, which is the Dryland tube test. And so we did that for a while. And I remember the patients didn't like it, and the nurses didn't like passing the tube. And I remember Greg Zuccaro said to me once, he says, you know, Conwell, this test is just not acceptable. And we have endoscopy now. The test you're doing is 60 years old. Why don't you just put the scope down and just suck the juice out with a scope? And so we put together a protocol to just do an endoscopic version of the test. And it made sense. It was just measuring concentrations, and we were just going down and aspirating fluid with the tube. So we aspirated fluid with the scope. And we developed the protocol, and we developed the endoscopic function test. And I remember the day that we collected fluid for an hour, and every 5 minutes we did that. And the patients, they were great patients to tolerate it. And a lot of them were our, front desk people, research coordinators, and we paid them a lot of money to do it. We actually reproduced the secretory curve, sodium, potassium, chloride, bicarbonate. It was perfectly reproduced. And I remember the day that I got all the data back, and I put it on the Excel spreadsheet, put all the stuff on the Excel spreadsheet. I highlighted all of it, and I hit the graph button on Excel, and I clicked it, and it just went zip. It made all the lines, and the chloride and potassium went reciprocal, and the sodium and potassium went across. And I yelled in my office, and a couple of people came and running, thought something was wrong with me, and I said, we did it. Look at this. And they didn't know what I was talking about. I said, look at that graph. It's perfect. And it was the exact reproduction of what was in the textbooks. And that was later published in GIE. And Tyler Stevens got an award for the top publication in GIE that year for that research. And he got his master's degree at Case Western studying that. So it was really, really cool. So we developed that test there. And that was really how my translational research got started the pancreas clinic there and on staff. So that was really kind of cool. And so then from there, I got a call from Peter Banks, and he said, I want you to come to Brigham. And I put him off for a couple of years, and then just decided, the Harvard dream has now come true, applying to Harvard as in high school, applying, for medical school and all this stuff. And I finally, here it is. So I ended up going to Brigham and Women's and going to Harvard. And my wife and I remember when I landed there for my interview, just for the faculty position. And I didn't know I was going to take the job or not. I remember landing there in Boston, It was late in the evening, and I told the cab driver to drive us. Go back one slide, Sam. So I had the cab driver drive us to Harvard right here, right in front. It's a very majestic, and all this is like, really marble, really pretty. And I had the cab driver stop. I actually called my mom from the spot, and it was a very emotional moment for my mom and I, and my parents, because I said, Mom, I finally made it. And so, this is all the way back, 17-year-old kid applying to Harvard. I said, I'm finally here, and it was really very emotional for my family, and also for my wife, but she understood the dream. And so that video about never giving up and all that stuff is very important. And you need people along to support you along your journey, and when things don't work out the way you think, and it's really interesting. And then when I interviewed there, and they had multiple interviews, and then I decided, when they offered me the job, I said to myself, I can't take the job. I can't leave Cleveland. I'm not going to do this. And and I remember, you got to have good counsel. I remember talking to my dad about this, and my dad just simply said to me, he said, son, you've been pointing that, your life's been pointing that way your whole life, and go. And I went there, and it was just really one of the most fantastic experiences of my life. And I met Beach and Wu there. I met Vikesh Singh there. They were both GI fellows. And of course, Peter Banks was there, who was my greatest mentor. And I really needed a pancreas mentor, despite the fact that I started the pancreas program at Cleveland Clinic. I really needed a pancreas mentor, someone close, that you could bounce ideas off of and be close there. You see in the hallway, and you can touch and feel, And so when we were there, Peter and myself and Beechin and Vikesh, we wrote like 50-some papers in the 6 years we were there. And we had so much fun working together. And when you see those guys at meetings now, and we just laugh and we smile, and we had such a great time together. My wife today talks about how much fun we had writing papers. We were always writing papers. We were there 6 years and wrote 50-some pages, almost a paper a month, but we were just so energized, and when you find the right chemistry, you just feed off of each other, and you have dinners together, and you just have a lot of fun. It's just great. And so got my first NIH grant there, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. And then from there, it was time to come back home, and as my mom was having some lung problems, and my wife, her family was having some situations that we needed just to be closer to our family, medical issues. And so we ended up back at Ohio State, to the greatest, despite all that wonderful stuff at the Brigham, all my dreams came true when I came to Ohio State, because in academia, you got to, what are your goals? What do you want to do, right? So my goals were to become a division director, to be NIH funded, and have an endowed chair. So I ended up at Ohio State. So I'm a division director, and I told Dr. Griever, the chair of medicine, I want an endowed chair. And he goes, well, we'll work toward that endowed chair one day. And so I came with all this data of all the proteomic analysis we had done with pancreas fluid and stuff. We'd written a lot of papers on that. So a U01 grant came up, later called the CPDPC. And so Dave Whitcomb called me, and he said, this is it. This is it. This is it. This is our grant. This is our grant. This is it. And because we've been to all this stuff with NAPS, and he goes, this is the grant. This is it. And I'll never get that. So we all applied for this grant, and we put each other on each other's grants in case he got the grant and I didn't. If I got the grant and he didn't, called Mark Topazian of Mayo. If he got the grant, I didn't get it. And we were just, it was really crazy. And I remember the morning that we submitted the CPDPC grant, I called Dave Whitcomb, and he and I had prayer on the phone, and we submitted the grant. And both of us got the grant, which is really kind of cool. But it was wonderful. And so when I got the U01 grant, I think that's what Dr. Griever needed to convince the dean. And so I got a call, and got the Charles Austin Doan Chair, endowed chair, which is one of the oldest, which actually is the oldest chair at the College of Medicine, which is really nice. And that it's nice, it kind of gives you some stature in terms of the work that you've done, and it protects your time. What these endowment chairs do, it's an endowment of money, and the interest off of that protects your time. So that's good to get you time to think. And when I got that endowed chair, my goodness, I was able to write more papers and really just protects your time. And then a couple of years later, we got a call from the development office that a family had given money years and years ago in honor of Floyd Beeman, who was a faculty member at here at Ohio State in GI, and the endowed chair had the money had matured to an endowed chair, and it was to go to the GI chief. So I got that one, but I had to give up the dome chair, which was fine. And so I've had two chairs, which is amazing. This is a blessing. I've had two chairs in the 6 years I've been here. Unbelievable. And since that time, I've been the co-director of the Digestive Disease Center, now the co-director of the Digestive Disease Area of Concentration. It's changed its name. And a full professor of medicine with tenure now. So it's just been a great, it's been great to be here. And really, the job has its challenges when you're trying to build an academic division. You come to Ohio State, it's very clinical. A lot of work has to be done to build this into a clinical, build this into an academic center. And Sam will tell you that we have a lot of work to do. But it's a lot of fun though. But it's just a great ride. So next slide. So I want to show you something. This is my nephew, my brother's son, Elias. Nice thing about being close to family, you can see him. Next slide. This is my it's one of our family reunions in West Virginia. There's all a bunch of Conwells there. Next slide. This is my hero. This is my younger brother, only sibling that I have. And this is my brother is a paraplegic. Unfortunately, he had a tumor on his third vertebrae, third thoracic vertebrae that left him paraplegic at 18. But he was a All-American football player and one of the top 100 players in the nation. And unfortunately had a tragedy there. But he's my hero, and he's a great guy. He's got a bachelor's degree in computer information systems and businesses. He reminds you of Magic Johnson. The guy's always smiling, never quit smiling. Next slide. Mom and dad, and dad's now 82, and mom's 78 today. Next slide. So why gastroenterology, right? Let's get to that. Why GI? Why GI? It's interesting. It was practical, made sense to me. I love doing procedures. I was in athletics. I love doing procedures. There's a variety of diseases. I mean, we interact with a lot of different specialties, but the esophagus, the stomach, all the different organ systems in GI. And one of the things you've got to find, and this is called the intersection of these three circles. What do you love to do? What are you good at? What pays you well? All right, you got to find the intersection of these three circles, and it's when they intersect, it's called your hedgehog. It's where you win, because if you do only what you love or what pays you well, that's just a dream. If you only do what you love, what you're good at, you're happy, but you're poor. If you do what you're good at or what pays you well, you're rich, but you're bored. But if you do everything what you love and you're good at it and it pays you well, that's where you win. That's where you're happy. So you say, well, what does that look like? What does that look like to you? Well, it looks like I always say it looks like Michael Jordan. It looks like Michael Jordan, Game 7, NBA Finals. There's 30 seconds to go. The ball's going across the half court. And what's he saying? Give me the basketball. He wants the pressure. He wants the clock ticking down, and he wants the ball. Why? He loves it. He's good at it. It pays him well. And he knows if those things are there, the pressure is there, the intersection of those three circles, he's going to win. He's going to make it happen. So that's what it's about. So for me, where do these three things meet? My wife will tell you, when Darwin gets in the zone, when you're in the zone, that's where those three circles, when you're in that zone, there's boundless energy. It is just crazy good. Sometimes it's like when you're writing the paper, when you're putting together a presentation, that's when those things happen for you. So you got to find what you love to do, what you're good at, and what pays you. And for me, it was GI. And it wasn't just gastroenterology, it was the academia, the scientific investigation of the academia. So sometimes when I am putting together a presentation for DDW or ACG or APA, it's the research that I've done. And that coupled with putting together the PowerPoint slides and thinking through how I'm going to assemble this to teach, at the APA meeting, in that 15-minute slot, how I'm going to have the audience hanging there. Wow, that was great, So you got to find that for yourself. Somewhere in the world of pancreas, you got to find that for yourself. So for me, that's why I love it. Now, the other thing is, the next slide. So I think it was just my destiny. And I didn't know this. I didn't know what gastroenterology was, but this is my 10th grade science fair project. When I told you that when I was sitting on the steps at my parents' house, this was the project. I was 15. This is called the enzymatic processes of digestion, 1979. And you guys know when you were born, right? So this is a long time ago, right? So I was in 10th grade. So this is these are 2 Windex bottles that my dad and I cut in half and put together. And this actually, I'll get you the photo. This actually is hydrochloric acid and pepsin. We went to Marshall University School of Medicine. I had to get a note from my biology professor, and it's real hydrochloric acid, 0.1 normal hydrochloric acid. And down here is actually is pancreatic extract. And my mom fixed the roast beef. And over here to the right is the chemistry of digestion. And my mom, we actually have this is a long protein chain. We're talking about how you break down, digest protein. So you drop some beef into there, and we've got some things here. You can make some little vortex. There's a valve. It's the pyloric channel opening. It goes down. And that's like the small intestine. And then it pops into the cecum. There's a valve there. It plops into a mason jar. And the rest of that is the colon. You can see. And then we kind of just talk about protein digestion. That was it. So that was me in 10th grade, goofing off. No one in my family was a doctor. No medical people in my family. Something I was interested in. No idea I was going to be a gastroenterologist. No idea. But so I think I was born to be a gastroenterologist. More importantly, I think I was born to be a pancreatologist. So I don't know. It's one of those things. So next slide. So then later on, when you do this stuff, you want to be good at it. And this is something that happened when I came to Ohio State. We won some awards, but we were not U.S. News and World Report. We're still trying to get into that U.S. News and World Report top 50. We got this thing from Gastrointestinal Care Excellence Award, but we're still working on that. And one of the top doctors thing. We've done that for several years. Next slide. So what are we doing at Ohio State? We're trying to create blue oceans. And what are blue oceans? Well, everybody's in the red ocean. Everyone's fighting over, competing for this market share and trying to beat the competition, trying to exploit the current demand, make the value cost trade-off. But really what you want to do is you want to get to the blue ocean. And a lot of you right now are at blue ocean medical centers, right? A lot of you come from blue ocean medical centers, all right? So where are you? You're at University of Chicago. You're at Johns Hopkins. Think about where you are. You're at University of Colorado. Think about where you are. You are at premier places where patients are telling their doctors, look, doc, I like you. You're great, but I want a second opinion. No. I don't want a second opinion down the street. I want you to send me to Johns Hopkins. I want to go to the University of Colorado. I want to go to the Mayo Clinic. That's the blue ocean, right? So what we're trying to create at Ohio State is a blue ocean, okay? So what am I doing? I'm recruiting fellows from those places, right? So we've been building the division, and this is a slide that I showed in February of last year, and the people that we're recruiting. And so at this time, we had 3, look at the bottom, our fiscal year 21 recruitment, we recruited 3 people. So the University of Colorado, Johns Hopkins, Cedars, 2 advanced fellows, one from Ohio State, one from Duke. And that's what I was telling the division directors, our recruitment strategy, and who was coming on board this past summer. Next slide. And so One of those is a person that you know, Samuel Hahn. And Sam told us a lot about himself. We introduced Sam to our faculty. This is what he told us. Do you know that he likes Korean barbecue and Texas barbecue and Spanish tapas, and he plays the cello? But he told us a lot about himself. This is the slide I used. He told us some things about himself just to introduce him to our faculty. And he talked about the joy in his life, why he came to Ohio State, what he does to relax, and the books that he's reading. Next slide, Sam. And this is his two beautiful girls and his wife. All right. So this is how we introduce our faculty to everybody, because this was, we're talking about a COVID. We can't have our usual picnic and touch and feel each other. We have to do it this way. So next slide. So we had, that year we had Director of Clinical Operations with Nida Afzali, and we were building that clinical service line, which is going very well. Next slide. We also brought on George Pancreatologist, who a lot of you know. George is just world renowned for advanced endoscopy and is really transforming our advanced endoscopy group. And Sam's really enjoying working with him. Next slide. And of course, Sam Krishna, who some of you know also, is really pioneering and really setting the world on fire with confocal laser endomicroscopy. I use them as an example of endoscopic innovations. Next slide. And I think our educational program is important, and I really wanted to, I think a picture is worth 1,000 words, and so just to show the diversity of our program in terms of female to male ratio, but also just the diversity of people that you see in our GI division. Next. And publications, in terms of what's happened. I got here in 2013, we really increased our public, and Sam Krishna has been the main person responsible for this because he runs our clinical research program. He's really pushed the envelope for publications. Next. And I just showed a few publications from different people in our division. Can't show them all, just selected a few. And we've started to move in terms of, clinical trials, NIH studies. We're involved in several of the big networks. And we're moving in U.S. News and World Report. Last year, we slipped back. We slipped back like to 100 and over, I think it's 100 and something. It was really terrible. And then we dropped down to 51 again. So we're trying to crack into this, and hopefully we'll get there this upcoming year. And we talk a lot about empathy, seeing through another person's eyes, and seeing, hearing, feeling through another person's eyes. Next slide. Last slide. So I think it's important that, I talked about, this is our last slide. I want to just keep it right here. I think it's important that you find the joys in your life. You gotta, the first thing I talked about at the very beginning with the video was just never giving up. You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have failures. One of the questions we ask people when we interview candidates for advanced endoscopy is, how do you handle failure? And what do you do when you fail? And you may say, why are they asking me that? Well, failed cannulation. You're always going to cannulate the papilla. And how are you going to handle that? How do you handle failure? Do you stomp and get upset and start swearing? And that's not, as Sam, that's not going to help you cannulate the papilla if you start to cuss. It's going to make it worse, and the nurses are going to get on edge, and that's not a good emotional intelligence, right? So, but how do you handle failure? How do you handle failing a test? How do you handle failing the boards? How do you handle when things just don't go well? You got to get back up, and sometimes you need people to help you get back up. You also got to know, what are the joys in your life? What are your priorities in life? And who are the people that really, really matter in your life? And do you have those people prioritized correctly? And do you have the right people that can speak into your life when you are in that zone? Do you have anybody that can reach in and pull you out of the zone because you've been in the zone too long? You've been enjoying that zone so much that you're ignoring them, and you have someone that can speak. Say, hey, Darwin, hello, I'm over here. Don't forget me. Because that happens too, because you really love what you're doing and it's fun, but you've also got loved ones to think about, and you probably need to go walking in the park and spend time with your family, or go visit your mom and dad, or do something else besides the medicine that you love so much and the research that you love so much. So that's important. And this is my wife, Kathy. who's absolutely gorgeous and just beautiful lady. And this is one of my grandchildren. This is Hannah. And they're at Build-A-Bear workshop. This is down in Houston, and having a great time. And so these are people that can recenter me. My wife is very, very good at telling me, well, you came home last night, but you were never here. I'm like, oh no, that's not good. And she just sticks it right to me. You came home last night, but you were not here. That means I'm thinking about the job, I'm thinking about my research or whatever. And we have this policy about the self. We like the dinner. We have a date night on Tuesday. Tuesday night is date night. I'm supposed to leave my cell phone in the car, right? We talk to each other. Okay, I'm leaving my cell phone in the car, right? Yes, cell phone's in the car. And attention, to her, and she's paying attention to me, and very, very important stuff. So that's all I wanted to say. So I'm open for questions, and thank you all.
Thank you, Darwin, for sharing that with us. While the other members think of some questions, I'll just start off with the first question, which is really, obviously you started a pancreas program out of nothing at Cleveland Clinic. How do you recommend because there's still a lot of institutions that don't really have pancreas programs in a way, even like big institutions, but for people who are recruited to start something like that, how do you recommend kind of going about that?
Yeah, I would start with your division chief, and your division chief has to be very supportive. And so how I started the program was I talked to my division chief, it was Joe Richter, and I said, I want to start a pancreas program. I want to start seeing pancreas patients. And he said, well, we don't have the funding to, invest into all the infrastructure that you're going to need. And so he settled out. He said, okay, let's see how it goes. Let's start out with two pancreas patients in your clinic per week, and let's see how it goes. Let's start giving lectures. Let's start talking to the outreach people, and let's start giving lectures around the city. Start doing grand rounds. Get acute pancreatitis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreas cancer lectures, slides together, and start giving grand rounds in the city, in the surrounding areas. Get your cards together for referrals, and so they can start filling those slots. We'll have our schedulers starting to fill those slots. We'll start directing those patients to you, and we'll make some simple flyers. And when the patients come to see you, you start telling them, I'm the pancreas person here. Thank you very much for coming. And then you start referring back to those doctors. Thank you for referring patients to the pancreas clinic. And you got to start out with not a lot. Don't worry about the money. It's more about just doing a good job and getting your name out there and letting them know that you're available to see pancreas patients. All right. And they also then start talking to your advanced endoscopists and letting them know that you're willing to see those patients in your clinic and follow up, that they are taken care of. You want to partner with them. Your best friend in your division is going to be your advanced endoscopist. Your best friend outside of your division is going to be your surgeons. And you got to find out which surgeons are going to do a good job taking care of pancreas patients, because those are the people you need to partner with. You will find out a lot of times, and I learned this from Peter Banks, the easiest way to get patients transferred in a lot of times is through the SICU and not the MICU. And the SICU seems to always have bed availability. The MICU a lot of times did not have bed availability. And the SICU always likes to use lactated ringers, and the MICU does not. And the SICU is less likely to start them on antibiotics. The MICU is going to give you heck. They're going to put them on antibiotics, and you're going to be fighting with them. And it just seems to be that way. I don't know. The other thing is, I found that the surgical oncologists at Ohio State, surgical oncologists at the Brigham, surgical oncologists at Cleveland Clinic were more aligned with the medical oncologist. And maybe it's because they're taking care of the pancreas cancer patients too. They seem to be more aligned with us. And even the surgical oncologists at the Dana-Farber, they were okay with doing necrosectomies when they had to, because they knew they were getting the pancreatic cysts and the pancreas masses. But to answer your question, you start out with your chair, and you start out not worrying about a bunch of money. You start out blocking and tackling. Carve out some patient slots, start seeing those patients. You do a good job, communicate with the doctors that referred them, talk to your advanced endoscopists, be available, double book, add on, be available. Let the surgeons know I'm available. And when they call you, you add them on, you double book. You don't say, I don't have room, I can't see them. You see them at 7, you see them at 5, you see them during the noon hour, but you add them on, you make yourself available, and then they'll see that you are for real, and it will grow. I started with 2 patients a week, all right, 2 patient slots a week. And by the time I went to Boston, I had 5 clinics. I had a clinic every morning, Monday through Friday, and it was all pancreas patients. And by the time I left, Joel Richter had gotten me a nurse practitioner. So what happened, and it was a beautiful system that we had. So I was in clinic Monday through Friday in the morning, and the nurse practitioner was there with me. She had a panel, I had a panel. In the afternoon, I did general endoscopy, colons, uppers, and pegs, okay? The nurse practitioner in the afternoon was getting my panel and her panel ready for the next morning. So when I came to clinic the next morning, my panel was ready. All the outside records were there. All her outside records were there. And we just went right back to work, right? And then that afternoon, I went right back to endoscopy. And she was making sure that the notes were together, the referring doctors got their information. It was beautiful. It just was wonderful, and that's how we did it. And that's a great system if you can get the resources to do that. But that's how it worked for us. And we didn't, at that time, we weren't involved in the ER very much and all that. But I think you also need to get the ER involved when the research really gets going, and lipase alerts and all that, because that's a valuable resource. Start capturing that data and stuff. But it's going to take time. But you got to start out small, but the availability, and when you're available, you got to communicate back, hey, I saw your patient, this is what happened. And for me now, I am so busy, I can't do all that anymore. But that's what you got to do. When you're not so busy administratively, blocking and tackling the simple things. And I always drop back to just be a good internist. Just be a good internist.
Thanks, Dr. Conwell. It's very impressive how you have built this program, the most attractive to any pancreatologist. I have a follow-up question to what Sam Han has asked. So with regards to training and having a dedicated medical pancreatology fellowship program, we have a few programs now in the country, like 3 or 4. And we recently started one at Hopkins also with a curriculum designed with input from Dr. Yadav, who has done a very impressive work at UPMC, like designing a medical pancreatology fellowship program. How do we take this forward? And do you think there's a requirement for a dedicated medical pancreatology fellowship program? And the reason I'm asking you is, one of the reasons I had to go into therapeutic endoscopy is ECFMG, which gives visa, does not recognize a medical pancreatology fellowship program. So I had to join a therapeutic endoscopy to get my visa. So how do we formalize medical pancreatology? How do we have more programs taking on medical pancreatology? Is there a requirement for it? Should we have a good standardized curriculum for it?
Well, I don't know what we need to do to get it recognized, but we need to find out, because what you're going to see is there's already oversaturation of advanced endoscopy, and having to do advanced endoscopy just because you want to do medical pancreatology, that's not good, and Sam will tell you that we got too many. We're going to have way too many, and if you really want to do medical pancreatology, that's what you should do. And we probably need to talk to some people. We got to probably talk to Dr. Saluja, Dr. Whitcomb. We got to talk to some people and find out what exactly do we need to do to get that recognized. Some power hitters, and people should not have to do that, because we're going to oversaturate this. Because what we need medical pancreatologists. We really do, because there's so much advanced endoscopy that needs to be done the right way, but we don't need to keep pouring out so many advanced endoscopists. We're training too many. We got to be very careful with that. And you have to, if you're going to be an advanced endoscopist now, the days of just doing the EUS or just doing ERCP really are over. And because right now, and Sam will tell you what we're in this slowly evolve. When a person comes down now with a pancreas mass, they really need to be booked for EUS, ERCP. A lot of times you don't know what you're going to, you got to be prepared to do everything, you know? And advanced endoscopy now, there's a lot more than just pancreaticobiliary. There's a lot that you got to be able to do, you know? And there's a lot of thinking, and when you're in the room, you you know, there's a lot. I mean, I was with Sam one weekend, and he did a choledochoduodenostomy on a person. He couldn't. There was a big duodenal diverticulum. There was food in it. The person was obstructed, and he couldn't even see the papilla. So he connected the dilated bile duct to the duodenum with a self-expandable metal stent. And this is a lot of things. But medical pancreatology in and of itself, there's a huge need. There's autoimmune pancreatitis, you know, there's groove pancreatitis, there's all the post-necrotizing pancreatitis complications that needs to be taken care of, right? And so that in and of itself, Phil Hart, myself, there's a huge, huge need for that, you know, all the chronic pancreatitis complications, you know, so we gotta do something about that. I don't have an answer, but we need to figure out who we talk to.
Yes, definitely. I think we should have a good curriculum and have more programs take up, and need to formalize that. And we can follow up on this discussion more to at least have PCFMG recognize it.
Yeah, so our first fellow in our medical pancreatology program will be Mitch Ramsey next year, with this upcoming year. And our curriculum, Phil put together from the Mayo curriculum.
And Sam, why don't we add Ohio State also to CAPER website? On CAPER website, we have a page on medical pancreatology fellowship programs. We should add Ohio State also to it.
Absolutely, we can do that. Any other questions in the remaining 5 minutes?
If anybody's looking to do medical pancreatology, I mean, feel free to join us. And we're always looking for medical pancreatologists. We need them. You know, there's no doubt about it. We have a large, we have a lot of NIH studies, and Sam will tell you there's a lot of chronic pancreatitis and pancreas cancer in Columbus. A lot.
It's too much, actually, in a way.
Dr. Conwell, just a follow-up minor question. Do you think there is space for so many pancreatologists to be in one institution?
At Ohio State?
Yes.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? Absolutely. Now, not therapeutic endoscopists, but medical pancreatologists, absolutely. We got plenty of room. I'll move over and make room for you.
I'm sure you have all these ways to attract patients and get your list filled.
Yeah, no, but I think the issue, you know, for us, at Ohio State, I can speak clearly that yes, we have room for medical pancreatology, because we need to get we've since the summer, our advanced endoscopy volume has increased 100 more per month, and we really need to get our advanced endoscopists doing advanced endoscopy and not seeing a lot of the patients, not seeing, even though they're happy to see those patients in clinic, but actually what you want is what I did in Cleveland. I was teeing the patients up for the advanced endoscopy. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I was seeing a lot of those patients in clinic myself, and my advanced endoscopy colleagues, I was communicating with them. Now I had the time to communicate with them. I didn't have all the administrative duties I had, and that really works out well. So they're doing what they love, I'm doing what I love, but we're communicating. You know, I'm talking to them, they're talking to me, and the patients, you know, and what's happening is I'm doing my best and they're doing their best. The patients say, well, are you going to be doing that? I said, no. I'm not doing, you don't want me doing your ERCP. I can't do an ERCP, but my colleague who does, you know, 400 a year is going to be doing your ERCP. You see what I'm saying? That's how you want it done. And
to comment on that, Venkat, I you know, because I had never really experienced kind of this medical pancreatology side, because, you know, most programs are kind of like super heavy on therapeutics, but having medical pancreatologists with you completely changes kind of like the discussion and the way that you manage patients. And I think it's much for the better. And it's not like we're just doing procedures just for the sake of doing procedures. So having like Darwin and Phil Hart, it's just been an amazing experience as an advanced endoscopist.
Yeah.
So
and we need more at Ohio State because Phil has getting so many NIH grants. You know, he's actually doing less clinic now than he's done ever before. So we need more medical pancreatologists. But anybody who wants to talk to me further about anything, I'm happy to talk to you. But I will say, you know, you need to, you know, find the joys in your life, prioritize your life. And, you know, I will tell you, medicine, I think it's a sacred trust. People come to you when they have their problems and issues, and they trust you. They really trust you. What specialty you go in, you spend 5 minutes talking to them, and next thing you know, you tell them to put a gown on. They're trusting you to take care of them, and it's a sacred trust. It really is. And so you don't want to violate that trust. You want to take care of them, do the best you can, and but it's a gift. I've always felt the ability to be able to understand God's greatest creation. It's a gift to understand physiology, to understand how the liver works, how the kidneys work, to think about what you've been gifted to be able to understand and reason and think through. It's amazing. And it's not that you're more important than anybody else, but you've been given the gift to participate in healing people. And that's a sacred trust. And just don't violate that. Just use it to help people. And it's a wonderful, and you know what that feels like. You know what it feels like, the smile on people's face when they say, "Doctor, thank you so much for taking care of my mother. Thank you so much for taking care of my son or my daughter." You know, it's amazing. And but that's what you've been put here to do. And so do that and enjoy the journey. You know, I showed you my journey, and it's been amazing journey. And just enjoy this and keep setting goals, but enjoy the ride that you're on. And Jamal's just got a beautiful daughter. You want to enjoy that. Introduce her to the world. You want to enjoy all of that. Enjoy. They turn 3 years old once, 5 years old once. Don't miss those. You know, you don't want to be doing an ERCP, or you want to make those birthday parties. Trade with somebody, and you want to make those parties. You don't want to miss them. You know, I'll tell you one story. I never forget. My son, I was on call, and I was trying to save some money with the babysitter. And I was on call as a GI fellow. My son was like 4, and I was a GI fellow. It was a Saturday. I went in, I rounded. Everything was quiet at the Cleveland Clinic. I went home, sent the babysitter home, trying to save a few bucks. I said, they're not going to call me back in. Took my son to Chuck E. Cheese, where they're playing the game, playing all the video games. I ordered the pizza. We're having a lot of fun. And my beeper goes off. And my 4-year-old goes, "No, Daddy, no." Because he knew what that beeper meant. It means I got to go to the hospital. And I'm like, "Jordan, I'm so sorry." He's like, "No, Daddy, no." And so I get him. Now he's screaming. He's upset. I get the pizza, put him in the car seat, put the pizza in the back seat, drive to the hospital. He's screaming in the back, and he's 31 years old. And that's like 27 years ago. I have not forgotten that, and I just felt so bad about that, So just, prioritize things, align things correctly, and spend that quality time with them. And he's an assistant professor now, University of Wisconsin, and doing great. But have fun. Someone gave me a book once as a little devotional to read before you leave work to go home, to kind of calm down and how to enter your home and just relax. But enjoy your family. Enjoy your family. Enjoy that. Prioritize. Very important.
Thanks, Darwin, so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate it.